What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Reel Down. I'm your host, as always, Jimmy Skinner. Returning with me for a second week, my newest co-host, and hopefully going to stay here for a long time, Garrett Johnson. What's up? I actually pointed the right way too. I never do that. I got that
I might
right.
stick around for a little bit. So
I hope so. If you
I'm
quit, I'm
enjoying
just
it.
going to quit. They're just going to lose me. I'm just going to give it, just pass the torch. Oh, well, how you been doing, man? How was your week? Anything
was
exciting?
good. No, not much. Just staying busy. Mostly trying to get my house in order so that I can be organized this year. I always come into the year so disorganized and stuff's everywhere, and then I'm scatterbrained all year long. So I want to try to go into it a little more organized this time around.
Yeah, I've been not as much on the fishing stuff yet. I've been like all that happens in this same room. I mean, as you can kind of see all the stuff behind me, but I've
Yeah.
been like working my way through cleaning up this office area but it's basically just shoved all the fishing stuff in that corner. So that'll be like the last thing I tackle, and it's kind of like I don't want to look at it because like there's things like I know I need to replace like 2 reels. I need
Yeah.
I need a lot of line. So it's like all I see is dollar signs right now. I'm just like, ugh, not yet. Not yet.
Yeah,
But
that'll get expensive quick when you start getting
it's
into all that.
yeah, I've been getting all my fun spending out of the way before because I don't even want to think about what I'm about to drop on fishing line. Like seriously, like fishing line is the one thing that I hate paying for. I will so drop $20 on a bait, $50 on a bait, and I will not bat an eye and not feel bad about it. Every time I pay like $40 for a roll of line, I'm like, this is stupid. There's no
You
reason
gotta
this
do it,
stuff should
man.
be there, but I don't know.
That's how you
But
keep up with the best of the best.
yeah, but I suck at fishing, so do I really? Like But yeah, we got another great show. We going straight to the top with this show. We brought in a returning guest. We've had him on a few times. I hadn't got to have him on in a while, but we are bringing in one of our buddies. I know me and you both know him real well, but
Yeah.
the newly appointed, I guess he'd be head director, main director. We'll see what his real title is. But director of the Bassmaster Kayak Series, Mr. Steve Owens. What is up, brother?
Oh, Big Daddy.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank
We're
you.
making it.
Heck yeah, yeah. So I don't know what my official title is. I guess I'm just the Bassmaster Kayak Series tournament director. And I want to touch on something real quick. Garrett talking about getting organized or whatever. Man slings a frog and won 30 grand last year. You don't need any organization. You just need to make sure you keep that hook
bring
sharp.
one box.
Yeah, no
Really,
kidding. Del
that's the
Hollow,
truth.
middle of December. Limit from a frog. Yeah. Oh.
I'll make it
He
happen.
kills me with all the gear he buys, and he is, man. You catch him on the water, he's throwing a white frog, and that's the only thing he had to bring with him. Like, that's it.
Everybody else is like green pumpkin Cinco. You can catch them anywhere in the world, and he'll go catch a sturgeon or a frog or something. That's killer.
That's Garrett
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I definitely caught him a lot of species on frogs too.
Well, Steve-O, for anybody that doesn't know you, I mean, obviously we hit on you're the new guy running the Bassmaster Kayak Series. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Contrary to the rumor, you aren't busy enough that you actually fish some too. So talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually lucky enough last year. I fished one national event and cashed a check in it, the Hobie BOS and Chick. But
One and done.
that's all the bragging I get to do. I missed the TOC by half an inch.
Ooh.
Half an inch to mat ball. And and sadly as I got through my reel of fish, I looked and see I need readers because my reading's a little fuzzy. I had a fish I believe I could have got that measurement I know so that hurt my heart. But Matt Ball deserves far more than I ever do. So I wasn't too heartbroken about that. And then as you'd have it, I wouldn't have had the vacation to take off work anyway. So there we go. Yeah,
I think
but
you
no,
do
man.
enough
If
for the
anybody,
kayak world. They should have just given you like some kind of honorary.
They should have just added one more spot in the TOC.
hey, I'll take charity, buddy. I'll take charity. I'll take charity. That's it. That's why I've got a gorgeous wife, in my opinion, because she got cataracts or something. I don't care as long as however you land it, it's all that matters. If you boat flip it or net it, as long as it gets in there, right? So yeah.
Words to live by.
Yeah. Oh man, anybody that's kind of just getting into this that don't know me, I've been probably in this 7, 8 years now. You know, we got a grassroots trail on Lake Chickamauga, Tennessee Valley Kayak Anglers. It kind of got us started in all this, and I really don't even know how. We had our classic year one. I had fished a couple of tournaments, and the tournament director was having to step down, and I stepped in to run the classic. And for those of you that don't know, I'm a pretty good fantasy football player, so I had several leagues. You know, they were all keeper leagues. You know, fake budget. You got to bid on players. You keep them a certain amount of time. So we had rosters. That's literally where I learned my organization skills. Was that fantasy football stuff, and these were all pretty high dollar entry fee leagues, and so I'd already done that for about 5 or 6 years. So that I learned how to poke around on Excel, and I thought, well, man, I can surely run a tournament, you know, and so we did, and we did okay at it. And so we just grew that, and then I started. Did the KBF trails on Chickamauga and Gunnersville for some time, and then just kind of kept growing our grassroots stuff. And, you know, TVKA, we would have, you know, events on Gunnersville. You know, we'd draw 80, 90 people. We'd partner with NACA. And then, you know, we did our cast club stuff. We'd start partnering with people. And, you know, we got popular, and I can be kind of funny. So everybody has a good time at the tournaments. And it kind of, you know, evolved into, you know, when Dwayne Wally and the other guys started the Bassmaster series, they reached out to me to help with that. And, you know, that pulled me into that. And then this past year, you know, we got Tennessee and Georgia Bass Nation, you know, which is a fish-in series for the Bassmaster series. You know, you make it to a state championship, and then you can get to fish into the Bassmaster Kayak Series championship every year. Got that going, and I did the Hobie College BOS series last year with AJ McWhorter, which was a lot of fun. Wasn't There's not a ton of anglers in it because it was brand new and it was something we had to create. And, then, you know, and I had to step away for a little bit from the Bassmaster after year one. I just got so busy with everything else, and just kind of trying to really just figure out what I wanted to do in my life, really, you know, because I mean, I always had really, really good jobs, and I grew up a clock puncher. You know, I punch clock every day, and, you know, stepping out and doing this kind of stuff, you're essentially becoming self-employed. And so, you know, my son and a few other good friends talked me into making that jump. And so, you know, end of February, before the Tennessee Bass Nation Chickamauga event, you know, that'll be my last week at my 9 to 5, and I'll just be doing this full time. So
I'm curious, are you still doing all the fantasy football league stuff too?
I not that in depth. I had 3 or 4 leagues last year, but they were just redraft leagues. But this year I just had the one. There's some guys that we've been friends for, you know, forever, that we've kept that league going. It's the Banquet Beer League, and I went 16-1 this year, won the championship. The only
Jesus.
game I lost was by like 1.1 point, just because I forgot to set my roster. So humble brag there. No, that's not a humble brag. I'm bragging about that.
I'd brag too.
Yeah, I
16
smoked
and
them. I
1. Yeah.
smoked them this year. Yeah.
You ain't gonna have a league next year because nobody's gonna want to play
No
against you.
kidding. Yeah. Hell, we may not. I hadn't made a payout yet. I forgot about that. I won, but there's still other people that win money too. So I got to get that.
16 and 1. I feel like you get all that money. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No
you just
kidding.
no,
Yeah.
y'all are out. Well, that's awesome.
that's
So
Yeah.
a man of many talents, many colors, a busy man. As long as I've known Steve, the question I've always had has been, how in the hell does he do all of it so effectively? Like, he's probably the most respected, and this is nothing against AJ. AJ's a fantastic guy and a really good tournament director, but everybody loves Steve-O. I ain't never met a person that can say a sour or bad word about him or anything he's running, who's ever worked with him, including dugout. You do everything for the not everything. I mean, you do a lot of stuff for the dugout. I mean, your name brings most of the anglers to it. I mean, yeah, they're good and they deserve it, but I feel like if you weren't there, they probably wouldn't even consider it. Like, and nothing against dugout. It's just, you know, if you follow Steve-O, there's greatness out there somewhere. There's good juju with it, you know.
I gotta
Yeah.
say too, like as
Sure.
far as from a grassroots perspective, you kind of set the bar for most grassroots directors, in my mind at
100%.
least. Like, we all kind of aspire to be as good as you are at directing in the grassroots clubs.
And that's about to happen on that national level now, because
Yeah.
I was there. I was there day one, the Bassmaster one. I was at the Logan Martin, and you ran that one, and that was for that to be the first time the Bassmaster dipped their toes in it. I thought it went fine. Like it was, you know, we had that big auditorium, and I mean, I feel like most everything went smooth. So
Yeah, a few
fast
little behind the
forward,
scenes hiccups, but yeah.
yeah. You fast forward. What was that? Was that 2020?
Man, I can't keep up with
I
dates. I
can't even
can't
remember.
tell you how to make it through my subdivision. So it was just about 3 or 4 years ago is what I say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere back in the past. But
That's it. Yeah.
so with you taking over, all right, we'll go one way and then we'll circle back around. So let's just talk about it right now. The schedule's been released for a few weeks. Um, did I'd feel like that's a pretty good time frame as compared to in the past everybody's struggled
Yeah.
with and had words to say about Bassmaster having so much trouble getting their schedules out, but there is a lot of stuff that goes into it, and with Bassmasters being such a bigger brand and there's so much other stuff going on, I feel like you getting this position is a much needed change, because now someone that is focused on us, on kayak fishing, can make sure that these decisions that need to be made timely stay kind of high on priority lists. What kind of stuff can you touch on that, what had to happen to make a lot of this, go together? You've been working on it since, early 2022. Were y'all able to throw it together kind of quick? What's that process been like, getting all this set up?
Well, for a little while, Bassmaster was reaching out to several different, tournament directors in the kayak world, because they understood, for whatever it took, they were like, we've been trying to essentially use our format sprinkled in with some kayaking versus let's do kayaking sprinkled in with our name, our structure, our commitment, and our integrity. And so they made that commitment, because numbers will speak to you. And they started reaching out to several people, and kind of oddly enough, I had had kind of negotiated to do it, and then I just looked at the overall picture of some other stuff I had on the hook, and I had to see the other play out first, and then that ended up not being the best route for me. So I had reached back out and just kind of had some conversations with Chris Bose, and really he was just asking me questions about what do we need to do to tweak this, what do we need to do, to get our numbers back up. We've struggled, we're dipping bad. We understand it because we do this for a living. So we see, things we need to see, and we want to make it right. We want to fix it. So we started talking about all that for a couple of weeks. And as I got to talking with Chris, I just kept getting this reassurance that, man, this dude gets it, and Hank Weldon, if y'all all know Trip Weldon, legendary Bassmaster guy, and Hank's his son. And so I get to talking to them some, and I was sold. I was like, this is it. I'm not a huge establishment kind of person. I'm a little bit of I don't like rules kind of thing. I don't like, my alarm clock tell me what to do, but I was just like, it just hit me. I got enamored with that culture. And then I started just for once looking into the history, because I didn't grow up bass fishing. I like the Yankees and Packers. That's, I want to play shortstop, something like that, and so I grew up a sports figure. I pan fished and crappie fished my whole life on Nickajack. So I get to digging into all this, and then I'm talking with Chris and some other kayakers, and I'm just like, man, this is something I want to do. So I sat down with my wife. Obviously, we prayed about it all and looked it all over. And I was like, is this something we can do? And she said, yes. But, there's a lot of other conversations, but essentially, if you leave your normal job, you'll be able to do this, with your other duties that you have in the industry, and it'll make it comfortable enough for us to where I can do that. And so I was able to do it, and just the reassurances of it all. I've kind of went on and forgot the original question, but yeah.
No, this is actually great. Like the transition into it and why. And then when you finally made the big decision, was any of the 2023 scheduling already done, or from your
No,
did you have to take care of
no.
it from that moment you accepted it?
Yeah, so I went over to the Pickwick event with them to sit down and meet with Chris, face to face, get the vibe from one another. And they were John Stewart, had went away, so they're hiring a new Bass Nation president, which wasn't in house yet. But Chris is vice president of tournaments, and so just had to meet and see if we really vibed like we did over the phone. So we hung out the whole weekend with Dwayne, and the event went away, all the way and everything, and so. I just, it was just like sitting around with a friend, and understandably, this man is an authority figure, but I just had to make sure that, you got to be able to make sure that you can take orders from someone, and seeing that he has all the integrity in the world. He's very smart, very experienced in this. A quick story on him was he started, I think it was the New York Bass Nation chapter up there, and it blew up under his, leadership. And it wasn't but a few years later, they moved him to Huntsville at the time, I think it was, and then on to Birmingham where the headquarters is. So he's got it. And so, the reassurances of we will let you guys say that because I talked to all of you and then other people and put in that input into what we do. You can get in there and you can dive in. You can move things around that you need to. You can edit it to make it kayaker, to where kayakers will relate to it. Just whatever we need to do. And then so started digging in with that. And then come the evolution of me and AJ and Chad working together to streamline all the rules. But the big thing and the hardest thing is always a schedule. So here we are, after the Pickwick event, there's no schedule. So, I'm having to jump in and just start, and thankfully, networking is one of my strengths. So I started just reaching out different people and got them all lined up somehow. I was able to, because AJ already had his schedule, which he shared with me so that I could work around it. Was able to deconflict almost everything that we could. And I wish I could write a book or share that entire experience of just how things literally fall into place, because I'm looking at putting an event here, but it's going to make you all travel over to here for your next one. And I'm just like, this is the only option I have. And then literally that evening, I get a phone call from somebody else. And it's like, okay, now we can deconflict by 2 weeks on the other side of the country kind of thing. And so all that went into work. And then, I had it all penciled in. We had 2 contracts to get signed, had the schedule for all intents and purposes done the middle of October. But, with some of these chambers, they're new to fishing. They're new to kayak fishing, especially.
Sure, yeah.
So, my job is to sell you on us coming. And I did a good job there, I think. And so they committed, but then you get into what they have to provide to host a tournament, and insurance stuff, which is what we were hung up on our final event, which literally got done today. I can't announce the location, but we'll have an official release next week. But everybody knows where it's at. It's in the Northeast. So it's a river system that's going to be pretty amazing. But it was a brand new chamber to what we do. So, it took 3 weeks to educate and them understand that they could do it. And then the insurance stuff come up, and then you got the holidays, people in and out. Emails take forever instead of just calling. So I was able to get people on the phone, and then, Bassmaster did their part in relaying information back that they needed, and then, it was finally, it drug way long, but it literally, because they changed their insurance and went out and got brand new insurance just so they could host kayak tournaments from now on.
Wow.
So thankfully that door's opened in that community. Yeah. So, I'm happy with the schedule. I mean, all the lakes we're going to, I feel like are hitting in the right times of the year. And then but
yeah,
I'm so excited that we're starting on Gunnersville. Like,
me too, man. I can't
Gunnersville in
fish it, but I'm
March.
so dang excited. Yeah.
Hey, you at least got to get out there and fish before the event. I mean,
Yeah,
you fish Gunnersville all the time anyway. So
you live vicariously through us in that one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Yeah, I ought to get out there and pre-fish y'all and say I'm just making sure you're being safe and whatnot.
Hey,
So yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
just keeping an eye on y'all jacking 5-pounders, hopefully. So they'll bite in a week. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
that's one thing about Steve-O too, is he smacks on them in pre-fishing. I mean, he smacks on them in tournaments, but he's always got a really good pre-fishing story for you, or
Yeah.
7-pounder that he didn't get in. Or
Yeah, Marshall and them wear me out over that. I just one time I said I caught he couldn't. I caught. Well, I had one on the line. I had my son on the phone. I just got off the phone with Lambert, and Jay Wallen was talking, giving me crap because I used 10-pound fluorocarbon to Texas rig on chick, and I was like, dude, I've never had a problem. Never had a problem. Well, I felt a nick in my line, and I crossed the lake to get to beat a storm. So I got under the trees, and then I was where I wanted to fish, and then I forgot to retie, and I was throwing June bug, speedworm, and plum,
Man.
and it choked it, and it was a double. It was, and I was like, it wouldn't fit in the back of that truck glass there, Mark. Oh my God. But it did. She was so big that I netted her 4 times, and she laid across the net. She wouldn't go down in it. And so finally, I went to lip her and snapped that line when I pulled it up too far. But yeah, so you're right. They get on me. Yeah, they get on me about these stories. I guess everybody thinks I'm a liar, but
I don't.
But yeah,
If there's anybody that's
So
telling you the truth, it's Steve-O.
yeah. So yeah, but it'll be a good time. And so that's how I ended up, um, essentially asking again, say, hey guys, I know we've already been down this road. We talked about it. It wasn't for me. A few things have changed, got my wife's Mac right. So she's going to let me do this. So, yeah, you know how that goes, but, yeah. And so they were like, man, hey, say no more, buddy. We'd like to have you. So
that's awesome.
And it's went great so far. Literally, I mean, it's just, hey, whatever your general consensus of you guys' is trusted field plus your, leadership opinion, we'll do it. And so far, literally almost everything that we've come up with has been, okay, guys, that's what you think's best. Here's the Bassmaster, I don't know, outline we have to stay within, and so we have. So and it's worked really good so far. I'm excited. I love working with those people. It's a huge, I'm pretty much a one-man show. I got Daniel Davis helps me with everything that I need, and he's phenomenal. But when it comes to like booking and the sponsors and the organization and all that kind of stuff, I have to do that on my own. And by nature, that's kind of the way it is. There's one set of hands that can do it. Well, now when I'm contacting them about these things, I have an email that has all of that typed up, and GL, the Bass Nation president, he's on the info sheets and the graphics and stuff. So, it's nice to have that kind of team like I have with Daniel on the Bass Nation stuff.
Yeah. So with the head and everything, is this going to make it you're going to be at each of these events running the event?
Yeah.
Awesome.
From now on, next year, the whole 9 yards, I'll be at every one of them. Yep.
That's awesome. No more, that's one thing that I always not really, I don't want to say I had a problem with, but it's just like I felt like it always left room for error when every one of the events had someone different running it. Because everybody runs a tournament different, everybody sets up for a tournament different. Yeah. So I was like, well, it doesn't just really flow that well. So that's cool to see that you're actually, on top of doing everything else with it, you actually are going to be there running the tournament. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what Bassmaster does it. They have the same tournament director at the teams, at the national, the elites, and college, and this, that, and the other. They believe in it. It's pretty important. And in year one with it, for the first couple of years with the kayaking, that was kind of literally just because there was,
that's all you had.
John Stewart was the tournament director for the nation, the high school, and the team series as well. So he had 3 places he had to travel and then try to do this on top of that. So it was kind of understandable that it struggled eventually, simply because one person can't do, and they didn't expect for it to be this kind of a load, and in hindsight, it was an honest mistake, to be honest with you. They don't look at us as a graduation up to something else. They understand, we're here for us, and we have our own series, and we're not looking to jump up into a boat or anything like that. They understand it, They don't
great.
know it because it's new to them, but they respect it and they're all in on it. So, yeah.
Well, so moving forward, we'll touch on a couple of things, and then we're still going to hit on my circle to the ending questions. So everybody in the kayak world knows, or at least in the competitive kayak world, saw that Hobie dropped a bunch of rule changes and some updates and stuff like that, and everybody got to hear about them. So first thing I want to do is I want to get your opinion on some of them, not even from you as being who you are with Bassmaster, just like I like that idea for rule, I don't like this idea, or this is why I would have done that. So Garrett, you've got some of the rules wrote down.
Yeah.
Just run off the first one, and let's just get Steve-O's thoughts on it, just from you as like from an angler. I mean, you're an angler, you compete, you
Yeah.
cash checks, what you think?
Yeah.
So
And from what, yeah, I guess from what I understand, you had a little bit of input on some of these as well. Is that right?
Well, yeah, we literally sat down together and went over every one of them and decided, and in the end, there was nothing that any of us were concrete enough on that we wouldn't mesh together with. So we
Right.
changed, essentially all our languages for one another. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome, having a uniform set of rules and not having to remember what's different between series and all of that.
Yeah, there's very little, very little.
So I guess the first one that I saw on there was that you can only use pre-approved launches, and well, this is in the BOS now. What are your thoughts on that?
like, what brought that to be, and is it something that you were heavy for, or is it something that was just kind of, so a lot of people don't understand when you make a rule, it's not to single out anybody, but sometimes you have to make a rule so that it is easier for the director to be able to police what is happening legally, all across the board. So sometimes a rule has to be brought in and just piss people off, just so that it makes it where everybody can play fair. So, what do you think about that specific set of rule?
On the launches thing, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Something like you essentially took the words out of my mouth on the part of, rules aren't always made. Now, so there are actions that do happen that force you to create something or relook at something. But this one in particular, you know, Shane Williams mentioned the other night on KBN, about kind of like, hey, help take care of the TD a little bit. A TD always gets lost in stuff, and that's okay. But, um, you know, you're no longer going to have to call a tournament director nonstop asking, can I launch here? Can I launch there? You're never going to have to worry about getting disqualified by launching somewhere ever again. So, it does change the dynamics of some kayaking. There's going to be some areas that you're going to have to be able to access, on your own versus being able to drop in certain areas, because other associated rules are going to keep you from doing that. But this one, everybody knows, Vinny Queen City has done the launches for a long time. And I'm good friends with Vinny, talk to him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I talk to a lot of his anglers too, and they all like it. They like it. There's
And for
no
anybody
gray.
that doesn't know who he's talking about, it's Vinny Ferreri, who runs Queen City Kayak Bass Fishing.
Also,
Isn't that
a
it? Is
good
it?
trail.
Yeah, and they have huge turnouts their events, and everybody loves fishing with them. They run a really good show up there.
Yeah, you used to have Mountain State Kayak Anglers, West Virginia, and all that, where Matt Ball, Jody Queen, and all them came from. Jeremiah Verseth, but Queen City, that's that obviously Vinny started them as grassroots, and we mess with him, call it grassroots club, but it's not. I mean, he's turned that into it's a full fledged series. I mean, he's got regions now this year. He does a great job. Everything he does with it. He's very organized with it. So anyway, yeah. Long story short, they've done it for a long time. It's something that, like you said, you can look at something as an advantage or a punishment if you want to make it that way, but it's not. You literally are now handed a tool for yourself to be able to use that's going to help you. Like Jordan Marshall brought up a good point. He's that guy that looks for that muskrat trail to launch out of, and he's like, you know what? It may cost me, but I'm glad. I'm glad now because no longer do you have to worry am I launching on private property or public property? It stops me from having to spend literally an hour. I spent an hour and a half one tournament. During the tournament now, because I saw where a person was fishing and I gave them permission to use that ramp, and I was like, is that public or private? Now, I wouldn't have disqualified him regardless because I gave him permission.
Yeah.
But still, it ate at me because I screwed up. I did something wrong. You don't need that. You all run tournaments. You don't need that second guessing while you're trying to make sure you do your job so somebody can take home 200 to $2,000, you know?
Right.
And so it's time. It's time. You know, people are like, well, Jay Wallen made up a good point last night. You know, people are like, well, that ain't kayaking, this, that, and the other. Well, true. You know, but what we're doing is, what was it he said? There's kayak fishing, and then there's fishing a tournament from a kayak. And this is the evolution of what we're all going towards, I believe. And it's
I've
necessary
even had
because, yeah.
I've had a change of heart on it because, you know, I was, you know, for me at the beginning, it takes it out of it for some of us. But if you look at it with an open mind, okay, now it's going to change my dynamic of my fishing. I've got to change how I do things. And then on the other end, I feel like it puts a real division between like a grass level event where the rules will probably always cater to traditional kayak fishing. And now this helps make these national trails top tier, like real pro level, like you're following pro rules, pro entry fees for pro money. You know, that there has to be that little bit of a division. And I've just over the off season, I've flipped my thought on it because I kind of didn't like the thought of it. But now a lot of it is people are probably thinking too. It's like, okay, only approved launches. Someone had mentioned that to me. Well, what if they only approve 4 launches? Okay, they're not going to put 225 guys on 4 boat ramps. Okay,
yeah, let's put some common sense in with that too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they're going to make sure that what they're allowing is going to spread everybody out so that, I mean, I can't explain it. It's like you said, it's common sense. They are not literally just sticking it to us. Like,
with any change that like literally neither of us have been able to have a sit down, and this isn't even the official one, and we can have one after the fact. I don't mind it at all. But once the rules are out, there's going to be talking about it because it's a brand new. So we're not going to put out rules and have you guys reading it and being like, what does this mean exactly? I mean, you know, we've done this for a while, so you know, it's. I mean, you know, yeah, but it's nature. It's human nature. We're men. We overreact. So we you know we're
there's a
wanna
truth
be
you
up
won't
in
hear
ours.
most men admit.
yeah. So
especially when it comes to
well,
competitive things, we overreact.
that's
For
right,
sure.
man. And we knee jerk over everything, and then it's like and then you're like 30 seconds into a conversation with somebody, you're like, yeah, man, he's all right. Yep, he's right. So, yeah.
For sure.
I feel like I've kind of conditioned myself to follow this pre-approved launch because I've always been scared of launching somewhere that I'll get disqualified for. But I
got that
fishing
little
those
bit of
off the
outlaw
wall.
in me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm like, tell me I'm wrong. Like, you come and like in my whole thing with the Drew thing was like, all right, you come with me. Like, let's go look. Don't just tell me on the map. Let's go prove it. Like,
keep talking. I'm gonna grab my battery charger.
yeah, man. Well,
yeah. I feel like I like to try to find those off the wall places still, but from a public, well-known launch. So,
well, and like
by
Steve
default,
said,
I'm basically doing that.
It's taken the guesswork out of it, which I appreciate because, like, when I fished the Bassmaster on Pickwick 2 years ago, it was like I could have done a launch one way and maybe been disqualified. So it forced me to try it, an off the wall way. And it actually like opened my eyes to like, oh, this area is easily accessible the opposite way. So it does. It really opens it up.
Options.
I never do. I fish with some backwoods boys that like to like talking about like Cody Milton falling off cliffs and him and Russ. That's the kind of folks I fish with around here. So
I'd rather make that 5.5 mile run or whatever I've got to do to launch from a public ramp.
I can do that now. We got that the motor life going, so
That's
My-
right.
Yeah, I'll be motoring and
Motorized.
kicking to get as fast as I can get somewhere.
Garrett probably kicks more than he motors, which blows my mind. Like, you got that whole setup with live scope. You don't use the live scope, and you're always kicking. Like,
I don't know, man. I
more
don't
on
know
the you carry
what
too
to tell
much
you.
crap. So go on to the next rule.
So another one they got here is not being able to communicate with anyone during fishing tournament hours, including other participants in the event.
So basically, no on the water communicating about fishing in the tournament.
Yeah. So and like what's specific to the event. I mean, if it's an emergency, I guess obviously you got to be able to do that. But
do we think that? And I mean, obviously, y'all have talked about this. So for me, coming at it, Steve, has it been a problem to where this has had to come to be? Like, I mean, I feel like I don't ever call anybody while I'm on the water. Like, straight up, I've got plenty of buddies in the tournaments. I don't care how you're doing. I'm trying to beat you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Shoot, man. I run my mouth all day long. I do. I talk now. And that's just, I mean, because, it's for us, that's part of the fun, is I'll talk to Sassy Dan, I'll talk to Lambert, I'll talk to Couth, I'll talk to just whomever. I mean, somebody come into town I hadn't seen in a while and we're talking and we do, we talk about what we're doing. And so I don't think you're always going to hear stories. I haven't experienced in anything that I've ran where people are like, such and such called somebody and this and that and the other. They drove 74 miles, 100 miles an hour, jumped in and they called a limit because whatever. I have, however, heard people say, me and Jimmy and Garrett were fishing together and I took off and this, that, and the other. Garrett called me and he was on them. He did this and this. So I loaded back up and went over there. Well, nothing wrong with it because there's no rule against it. But I feel like for the sanctity of growing your tournament series, that's something that needs to be eliminated because it is a truth that can happen. I don't ever want to be quoted as saying we're trying to make this like the Bass Boat Series. However, they, even the Bass Nation here in Tennessee and Georgia, you can't communicate with another competitor, about the fishing. You're there to fish for the day. So I feel like this year we're at a weird point where we're trying to keep the fun grassroots all fuzzy warm in your heart feeling, but we understand where we're at. It's 200 anglers in some of these Hobies, and there's thousands and thousands of dollars. And not everybody are buddies and pals, so they don't want to hear us how we thumped them because the three of us fish together. So it's a necessary thing I do, even if it's not a problem. Yeah,
that is something that I can.
This is not like the college gambling ring back in the day, the '90s, whatever.
Yeah.
But this is just keep it real, we it's something that I could see where people, and again, guess what? It takes aggravation away from the tournament director.
That's right.
Yeah,
that is right.
true.
Less shit for you to call me and bitch about, folks.
That's the whole reason we did all of these rules stuff, to make our lives easier. Yeah,
Hey, you got a lot on your plate, so
yeah.
you gotta simplify it somehow.
How is that policed? Just through like polygraph?
I mean,
like if there's an accusation.
Are you surprised somebody say, "Hey, man, let me look at your phone," that kind of thing. So
Okay.
most rules in about everything. Yeah, most rules in about everything aren't enforceable. Like I can pull it up on my laptop and find it out. It is. Our sport is an honor system to an extent, and that's why I believe when it happens, then you got to lower the boom on that penalty. When it's something malicious. A rules infraction is different. If you launch and a man you call and say, dude, I took off, my white light wasn't working. This guy told me about it. I'm going to say, pull back over to the bank, FaceTime me. Let me see that you're on the bank. When it gets good and light, you can take back off. Don't ruin a man's entire tournament over something like that. A battery going
Italy.
Yeah. So.
And we've got a lot of good people in our. I mean, I go back to Jody Queen disqualifying himself for forgetting to put his PFD back on when he stopped. Like, that takes a real honest person to. I mean, because he was doing good in that tournament, and
yep,
he was like, "Oh, I made a mistake. I'm sure he could have called the tournament director and been like, man, for the last hour and a half, my bad. Like, I can go ahead and quit for the day and we can call it good with what I'm at, whatever. And he removed himself from the tournament. Like, standout guy. And we got a lot of people like that in our industry, which is what makes kayak fishing so much better than that boat world crap, because most of those guys hate each other. So,
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of going towards establishing potentially like an elite series for kayak anglers, if that makes any sense. Like,
oh yeah, I mean that's what everybody wants, is it to get to that real pro money level, and things like this have to happen. I mean, we can't be giving out $100,000 winnings at a grassroots style event. It'd be cool if you could, but 5 minutes after that check's cut, someone's gonna be like, "Oh, he was cheating.
he
Oh,
was
I
doing
saw him in Mama's
so.
pond."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's all the time, and something people fail to even, because people don't read, they don't use literary skills. When you see an infraction about every tournament series, it states in there you need to report it. And I don't like snitching, can't stand it, can't stand snitching. It's not snitching if you're fishing a tournament and you report an angler. That's cheating, because that if you don't if I don't call Jimmy and say I saw Garrett, throwing two umbrella rigs, one out of each arm, and he's snagging these fish, then I'm essentially saying I'm okay with Garrett stealing money from all of my friends and myself in the tournament. So you have to speak up. You do. If you don't, then you know how quickly people quit fishing tournament series if they hear of cheating and stuff.
oh yeah, that's
And it doesn't even have to be a tournament director excusing it. It could just be it not being addressed. We've all screwed up. I mean, I've literally, before first cast, lines in, what I'm gonna call this one, I made a cast and I was like, oh no, it's not time. So I bombed it to the bank. I bombed it to the bank and let it set. Yep. And then when tournament started, I popped it and reeled it in. Yeah.
Well, don't be surprised if you catch me out there next year with my dual umbrella rigs.
I want to see that. I want to see what kind of man it takes to swing two A-rig rods at one time.
I want you to do it with a cigar hanging out of your mouth. Gun belts. Yeah, gun belts crossing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Garrett could pull it off. That would be awesome.
He could. He's freakishly strong.
I could just imagine it getting hung on each other, trying to cast it and just losing both.
No, you're busy. Yeah, you're busy carbon behind you and your life jacket or one of your rods. It'd be like, yeah,
one stuck in a motor, one stuck on a flag. Oh,
just chaos,
nightmares. So that's cool. I definitely want to talk about that, because that's one that I talked about it. We had a rules show middle of the year last year, and I just didn't understand that it had got to the point where the communication was such a thing that needed to be addressed. But I totally get it now, and I'm curious to see what happens. I feel like there will be an accusation at some point that it happened, after it becomes a rule. So I'm just curious to see what happens when it happens, how it was taken care of, which I know y'all will take care of it. I don't know. I just kind of want to see how it works. But
I feel like it's kind of leveling the playing field for people that don't have like
that giant network.
Yeah, network of
the way it was explained to me one time was kayak fishing seemed very cliquey, like high school cliquey.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get that. But I mean, get better at fishing, I guess. Have more friends. Shit, I don't know.
Make more friends.
So the next rule that I got wrote down right here is probably the one that I'm the most excited about. And again, folks that are listening, we're reading off the Hobie BOS rule changes. Bassmaster has not released their official word on this, but everybody knows these two guys are really close friends, so make your speculations there. But the 3-week off limits period leading up to event, I am so excited about that. That's probably been my biggest complaint, is like I went down to Florida for it was a KBF event, and find out that some of those anglers have been there for a month. Like, bro, sun shines on jackass every once in a while. I could figure any lake out in a month. Like, I came down with 3 days. How am I going to compete with that? And that's what kind of killed everything for me last year. It was like, I can't go to these high level events and compete with these people that are doing it full time and can spend that many weeks, on one body of water. I think most people in general are going to be A-okay and, I really appreciate that rule. What are your thoughts on that, Steve-O?
For me, I'm okay with it. I can't explain why, but I like the 3 day. But I mean, I understand the 3 day can exclude, and here's the thing: no one knows who pre-fishes what. I don't know how many people fish Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, how many people fish Tuesday, Wednesday, how many people fish the weekend before. But what I do know is 7 days, Saturday to Friday. That's pretty inclusive. It allows you. I'll just tell you how I pre-fish. I fished, Hobie Lake Seminole twice, and every time I laid out of work on a Friday, or drove down on Friday. Me and Kuth, or me and Daniel, and we got down there 10, 11. Justin Patrick, met him at the TOC. No, met him at a Cass State Championship or something. So I put out there, hey, I'm going down to Seminole. He and I hadn't even met. We just knew each other. So we got a room together. I got into town 11 p.m. He got in about 11:10 p.m. And we stayed there the whole weekend, pre-fished. And funny story, come tournament time, we show up at the same places. We didn't even pre-fish together. But so anyway, so that's what I would have to do. I would go down and fish, Saturday, and then most of the day Sunday, and then drive back 6-7 hours. And I did that 3 times actually for the first one because I loved Seminole so much. I don't know, I just love it. And that was the January, February timeframe. I mean, it was that first one when it was cold. And I loved it, man. It was a good jerkbait lake for me, umbrella rig. And so, but that's how I pre-fish for everything, is I have to do it the weekend before, or if it's close enough, I'll slide down on a Tuesday if it's Gunnersville or something. And it's after work, I get about 3 hours, and I'm just there because mentally I feel like I just prepared myself, whether I catch anything or not. I got on the water. I know what color it is. That's just I have to have that. And so,
Yeah.
Another thing to it is if there is a 3 day and you've got 205 people in the tournament, you literally just put all of them on there for 3 days. So hopefully,
That's a valid point.
Kind of spreads it out a
hopefully
little
40
bit
of
if you
them
got.
fish the weekend before. Some of them can only do Friday, and then there's big money tournaments I didn't even get to pre-fish for. I just showed up and fished because I wanted to do it. So I mean, you're going to be able to have arguments for all of it, but in the end, for me, kind of going with the 7 day, I was okay with, because I don't want to say, no, we're 3 days, we're not changing. And then you fish a Hobie on Seminole, and then turn around and fish, Possum Kingdom in June. And now you're disqualified because you pre-fished on Monday because you could do it in the Hobie. I don't want to have to disqualify somebody for that.
Yeah.
So that's that important to me. That it's like, you know what, man, we're trying to get on the same page here. This is year 1 of it. And so, we can always tweak it. Somebody made a post, Keith Martin, and it was so awesome. Sassy Dan chimed in and said, Jay Wallace said, that's it right there. Like, what was it? He said, pre-fish Saturday, Sunday, take 3 days off, and then pre-fish Thursday, Friday. That handles both of it. Great idea. And so Daniel was like, don't tell him that, because Keith's never had a good idea in his life, they say. So, Keith Martin's a good buddy of ours. We enjoy fishing with him. Grandpa. But yeah, that's how I feel about it, man. It's just, I'll be honest with you. You can say advantage, and Brandon Polinick says, when you say someone has an advantage, most of the time, and again, there's no way to prove the catchphrases, there are a lot of, and then most of. You can't prove those points. So, but to continue what Brandon Polinick said, he said, anytime someone mentions advantage, it's typically followed by an excuse. So he said, that's all it is.
Valid.
You say somebody's got live scope. Guess what? I've got live scope. Only thing I can catch on live scope is a damn perch. I can't catch a bass on live scope.
Yeah,
but I'll wore perch out. Yeah. And so, but I want to learn it. And the reason I want to learn it is because it's a tool that if you master it, like I live on Chickamauga. Every day when I drive across the dam, there's the magic hump out there that the BFLs, the Major League, all the guys have won so much money on, and you can't get to it certain times a year. But I would like to go to it all the time, live scope it, and if I see 3 fish, I'm gonna back up and I'm gonna throw a rig on them until they finally bite, and they will.
Yeah.
That's one thing I found about an umbrella rig. If you can scan fish, you may sit there an hour, but if you keep throwing through there, something's going to bite it eventually. And I'll say, I don't tournament fish with it a lot, but I'm a very good umbrella rig fisherman, and that's probably one of my favorite ways to fish, other than jerkbait.
I picked it up again after a long time last year, and
Yeah,
I actually made myself fish with it. I kept it with me all year, and blew my mind how effective it is just about any time, anywhere.
yeah,
Like you,
yeah.
just like you said,
Just about.
if you're willing to blow your shoulder out and throw that bad boy all day, you're gonna catch fish with it.
Yeah, yeah, and I found, and like a lot of the techniques, it's all about the fishing rod. I found a rod in particular that it's no effort. I throw the big harvester rig from Hog Farmer all day long on it, and I got no fatigue.
I
It
need that
just
rod.
catapults it. It catapults it. It's Shimano Poison Adrena. They're about $370, but you can find deals all the time. You can find them used on the Shimano pages for around 250 bucks. That is the rod I would spend the money on, because it literally, man, I'm telling you, I've got a Tranx 200 on it with 20-pound copolymer, and I fished an entire winter and caught over 100 fish. And I fish it with light wire hooks so that I can straighten them out and I don't lose my rig.
Yeah, smart.
Because if I try to use a lure retrieval, I'll end up dead floating in the water. I can't do it. I can't.
That's how I
coordinate
feel
that
about
much.
that damn thing.
Even in a 360, I couldn't do it. I can't do it. And so those people are wizards or something. But that umbrella rig, that rod in particular, and I Hog Farmer put arguably, the best umbrella rig you can buy. He lives here, right up the road from my house. We're good friends with him, and he showed me his YouTube videos where he put a microphone on an umbrella rig on braid, mono, and fluorocarbon. And when you put that on braid, you frog fish, you know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
You put that underwater, it's bad. You throw it on copolymer, fluorocarbon. There's the only noise is the noise disturbance from the baits, which is what you want. You don't hear that braid in there, and it's different, because and it's not a thing. And like he said, he's like, I don't care what you throw it on. You can throw it on braid and gin clear water because they're biting a coat hanger.
Yeah.
They're essentially biting a coat hanger. So your line's not going to deter them from biting that bait. He said, but that braid noise, he said, I know good and well that braid noise makes a huge difference. So I started using copolymer, and I fished that entire year on that one knot, and it never broke.
Wow.
Well, we like giving everybody the hot little the juice and tips and tricks on here, and that was a good one that probably wasn't expected.
And copolymer's cheap too.
Yes, it
you
is.
were mentioning fluorocarbon. Yozuri make. I'm a Seaguar guy, but if you don't use the basics, and you don't want to spend $40-$50 on a spool, that Yozuri stuff at Academy is good doggone line.
Yeah, that
especially for
G7
moving baits.
fluorocarbon. It's good stuff.
Well, I actually used the cheaper one. It's $9 for 300 yards.
Oh yeah,
especially for moving baits. If you're crankbaiting anything like that, dude, that line is the way to go. I mean, you can use it for Texas rigging. It does stretch a little more. So like if you're using a heavier power rod, you'll be perfectly fine using it for Texas rigging. But if it's something where you want to do your scientific approach, then I wouldn't use it. But yeah, for everything else, man, just
If the knot stays and it don't break, I'm in. So
that's it. Yeah,
it does.
Well, hell yeah.
So going back to this the off limits period, so we got a little sidetracked there. I was kind of thinking that it kind of caters to like the weekend warriors and the guys that can dedicate their time to this.
The off limits.
The off limits time periods. So giving it a week out, so you can include that weekend, so that the guys that have to work and all of that can.
For guys that have to take that approach like Steve does, hit the weekend and maybe not get to hit the water till tournament day. That definitely I feel like it caters to both people where you can't complain about it. Like, I'm giving you 7 days, and I gave it you 3 weeks where nobody was on it beating it to death. So
Yeah.
what else can you want?
Well, 14 days because the 21 days is the start of.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got 14 days off limits, 7 days of official practice.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The one key difference is Bassmasters. I'll go ahead and tell you, it'll be 20 days instead of
Okay.
21. Reason being, I have a tournament on Gunnersville, the rattle trap, that deal,
Okay.
and that came out before this schedule was set. So I was like, guys, I got to have 20 days. So
Gotta do
I
it.
said, okay, we'll keep it
makes
consistent across the series. It'll be 20 days. So
Do you think
leave it to me.
as
Confuse it.
potentially like there is let's just say an elite series for kayak fishing where you can't really be a weekend warrior to do it? Do you think that off limits period will stay for that and not be as
I think
inclusive, or
I think an elite tournament series, if that's what we want to call it, it literally is set up where weekend warrior can't do it because you're having to commit to
yeah,
five tournaments 1%. You got to pay your interest fees up front, so you're not going to be able to include that person most likely. You might have the
yeah,
occasional person that that's off days, are where they can do it, or they may
or
have
just
enough
had tons of
vacation.
vacation time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to eliminate or work from home people. Those
yeah,
people can be blessed, believe it or not. And so, but yeah, so yeah, you're right. But and if that happens, then I truly feel like it would probably mirror, what a boat side does. Because if I ran it, and I don't know what are the Bassmaster Elite rules. Can they fish a lake at all if it's on their schedule?
They can. Well, no, that was Major League Fishing. So no, I don't know. I know Major League Fishing
Yeah,
can. I think they have a month off limits or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
yeah.
And I know that for fact because like Dustin Connell, after he won Cayuga, he went to Mille Lacs, fished Mille Lacs for a month, and then they took a month off, and then the event came to Mille Lacs. I mean, he was openly
Okay.
talking about it. Bassmaster though, I'm not sure. I'd have to check it. But to what Garrett's saying, I feel like that's what makes an elite level event. It is paying all these tournament fees up front, committing to the entire series. There's factors there that can change things, but way more strict rules. And
Yeah.
I mean, all that. Not canceling out, excluding the weekend warrior to be able to fish that tournament is what makes it elite level. On top of maybe having to qualify to get into that series, but I would think when we get to that, going to more like the boat side does things is necessary and can't really be argued. It
Yeah.
they've
Tried
done
and
it
true
for
format.
years
Yeah.
and it works. Like,
Yeah.
you don't hear the bass boat guys complaining about that. You hear the bass boat guys complaining about being broke. Well, don't spend $100,000 on a boat and $200 on gas every 5 minutes, and that shit doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But
That's it.
it,
Yeah. I hate
any
the
other,
word. I hate the phrase life's all about choices, but that truly is one right there. Yeah.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
True. True.
Yeah.
So we hit on
Uh,
a few of the rules. Did you have any other ones you wanted to hit on, or?
the other ones are not as major, I think, as some of these ones are. But I mean, I kind of think this one is like more of the David Dudley rule that they had to make in the Bassmaster, where you can't alter the landscape anymore. So no.
I didn't think you could to begin with. I didn't know that wasn't a rule.
Yeah. Well, you like right now as it stands, if you know, I'll be careful here. There's there's reasons we do these things. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's situations that can happen and probably happened in the past where people live on a lake and they know where the juice is and they know that you can't get to it a certain time of year, so they go and they do things that are legal, because you're not violating land management laws or whatever,
Yeah.
so that they can access an area, or oftentimes in the boat world around here, where you can exclude people from getting into an area. So And then the day before a tournament, they go back and they make it all magically clear so that they can get into it. I've experienced that in my limited boat experience here. So, and that's
That's
So
hardcore stuff.
yeah, and then there's been kayakers that have modified the things to get where they wanted, and it totally just goes out of the realm of, you're running to a grass mat on Gunnersville. I mean, how many, dude? I fished multiple tournaments where I never got in the main body of water. I launched at the boat ramp. I got to my spot. I got in the middle of a grass mat. It's 4 foot deep, 3 foot deep, 1 foot deep, and I stayed there for 8 hours. I never got out of that grass mat. That's different. That's not, so you can that's why, Hobie didn't have a push pole in their language. They just didn't. Push poling is not, climbing over structures and sunken chicken houses or whatever. Push poling is you standing up in your kayak and either using your paddle, you know how we do, we just hold on to the end to do this, or you use a push pole so that you're quieter. It's not, superhuman strength going across shoals. That's not what push poling is.
I used to bring a
SUP
board paddle with me that's the same concept where it has the handle on the end. And
I found one on Lake Chickamauga here. Me and Coots were fishing one night. There was 3 of them laying there at the ramp. So I kept them in my truck that summer because I go there all the time and never ran into any more SUP owners. So I kept them. So I got 2 really good ones. And so that's what that is. I mean, it's not, like there's if you get, if you're fishing, I don't know where, something popular, you're fishing. All right, there's an area in Chester Frost Park, everybody fishes it. So you're going to be fishing shallow, and you're going to run into a mud strip, a little bar. All right, and when you bump into that bar, you can back yourself off of it, and you can go 2 miles to the left, 3 miles to the right, and go around and get in and fish. Okay. When you hit that bar, you can't go over that bar into that water. You're going to have to go where you can float over into it.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic and simple, so it's not,
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, but those, there are a lot of people that don't experience that. Like there's people that literally all they ever get to fish are rivers. So they don't understand some of the things. And that's where, the hardest part about tournament directing, and actually the part I enjoy the most, is the educational part. I like talking to new people that don't know something and helping them understand it, where they're like, oh man, I get it now, but that's very labor intensive. So that's why, we want to make sure, we're able to go on as many of these podcasts as we can.
Yeah. It's like kind of to one of the points you brought up earlier, where this is kind of somewhat taken away from what kayaking is, I guess, where we're able to access these waters that bass boats and stuff can't get to. But from a tournament perspective, it takes all of that questioning out for any kind of director and kind of evens the playing field for everybody.
And there's still parts of it that, like, you can, like, if you go back off Steve's example, you could probably run up and down an area like that, and depending on water level, you might find that perfect little spot that allows you to float in versus that whole trip.
The thing that I'm take out like half my tackle and leave it on the bank.
You'll never get in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Garrett's not getting in there, but
he's fishing out of a sun dolphin for this tournament because he can get in and out. I mean, that's going to change strategies. Craig Dye uses that strategy. Everybody, I love Craig Dye. One of my, he's one of the people that have helped me more than about anybody in this sport. Craig was tournament director far before me. Arguably, the most successful kayak club, in Tennessee is KBFTN that he got rolling. And Craig's been a huge help to me, and he's not all vocal out there all the time, but I talk to him about a lot. And he literally uses a couple different kayaks for tournaments for certain reasons. And that's smart. Jim Ware does the same thing.
Yeah. And I think Drew Gregory does too. He brings like a whole
trailer. Yeah, there's a lot of people that do
kayaks with him.
Yeah.
These scientific, brainy people like Riser and Russ and Ware and Drew and Craig, and they're just like, I'm like, man, I just do good to get out of the dang truck,
Uh,
and here these guys have got scenarios figured out that I didn't even know existed. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm telling you,
freaking a bunch of rain men running around in kayaks. I'm
you realize
struggling to
where
tie
you
my shoes.
stand. You realize where you stand in the fishing world when you sit down and talk to Russ and Riser.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because
they're
like,
take technical to a whole nother level.
yeah, you're just like, God, I suck. Like, I'm not you. Anymore?
That kind of somewhat covered this last one that I had on here was being able to float through like legal water. Like scooting and pushing is not considered, like if your
Flirting.
boat's dragging the water, you're not getting into legal water anymore.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I think that one's
I
very
will touch on that one
self-explanatory.
when you see my rule. I've expanded just a little bit on portaging. Now I'll let you guys read it when it comes out,
Yeah.
but we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not looking to isolate anyone from doing what they enjoy doing. It's like what you just said a moment ago. That I quoted Jay Wallen loosely on was,
Yeah.
there's some things that we have to start doing because if we don't, the constant finger pointing, this and that and the other, it's just it's exhausting and you can't run. You're not going to be able to run an event the way it needs to be ran. Because when we go to the awards and check in and stuff, you guys deserve to be celebrated.
Yeah.
And if someone's
Not
just done,
scrutinized.
mentally
Yeah.
exhausted, I used the term the other day, I forgot it. You're at the highest level of pistivity. You're not going to do a good award show. It's going to be like, hey, Garrett, here, Jimmy, here's your check. All right, see you
All
later.
right,
Pay
F off.
tomorrow. Yeah,
And
that's it.
another
So
thing to look at about it is these rules are going to help take away that banter like you're talking about and the finger pointing, which is going to help the sport continue to grow because I've heard from a lot of outside looking in people that, well, it seems like everybody's always after each other or
yep,
seems like there's nothing but negativity there. Well, if you take what other people are saying and seeing not in the industry, the people that are like running Bassmaster see that. Why do they want to put their name on something that's just a bunch of people whining and complaining? And they're definitely never going to give, you're not going to gain that access to the money that can be had to put back
right.
into our sport if it's just everybody against each other and it's all the negativity. And I've said it for the last year. You can go back to any podcast I've done that we talk about this gets brought up. That is what has killed competitive kayak fishing for me on the higher level was, you know, too much time on the water for everybody because there was no rule against it and all the negativity. It's like you could do good at this tournament and fish your way and then completely get razzed for it because you weren't on the main body of water, even though you followed the rules. And that stuff, it's like, why should I even do this? And that's what killed it for me. So I am personally excited a lot more than I thought I would be. I thought I'd hate a lot of these rule changes. I think it's fantastic because it's going to take away, I mean, but there's just people out there who love to piss in everybody's Cheerios. So there'll still be some bull crap that comes up, but a lot of it's headed off now. And I think that that's just great for, the national kayak scene as a whole. And
Yeah.
I can't
I
wait
really like the
till,
direction this is going.
yeah,
It's
Yeah, the biggest thing I'll share is, and I had this conversation with two of the more successful anglers one year, and they were in a tournament, elsewhere, and they had a question, and and so I don't have a affiliation with this tournament series, but they were like, "What do I do here?" I said, "Well, the first thing you always do is you call your tournament director." Granted,
yeah.
I'm a resource because I love everybody and you're all my friends and I have a good time talking with you. But I mean, so I'll help answer anything general. But the first thing is look, you need to call that tournament director and ask them. And the thing was that person had went by somewhere. I can't even remember the specifics of the two, so I'll just talk about the one. But something had happened, and they're like, what do I do here? Am I going to get disqualified for this? Am I going to get qualified? I said, no, that's not the spirit of that rule. But now, having said that, I'm not your tournament director, so call that person. And so they did, and so we talked after the fact. They came through and stayed at the house, and so we're talking about it. and they're just like, man, I get so nervous. It's like everybody watches every tournament. Like I've seen times when the top 1, 2, or 3 get talked about how good everything was for 3, 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then however long, weeks and weeks and weeks, is about somebody that was way wherever doing something that wasn't right, or they did it incorrectly, not even necessarily on purpose. That's all that got highlighted, and so but I told the person, I said, one thing you have to look at from now on, and you just have to accept that this is how competition is. I'm not talking about kayak fishing. I'm not talking about any certain crowd of people. I'm talking about competitiveness stuff, period.
Yeah.
Every time something happens, ask yourself, am I going to get in trouble for this? Don't let that fear consume you, but question everything. We always have to question everything, or you get led down, to the coke oven somewhere. So I told that person, always look at that and ask yourself, and if you have a question, call that tournament director. If you have to talk to them 15 times that day, we're on the clock, and then what you also do is now you're educating yourself so that you don't have to ask that ever again, So
100%. Yeah. So we've made it
dropping the juice tonight.
Dude, that's why I love having Steve on. It's never a bad conversation. So we've made it back full circle around. We hit the rules, which definitely wanted to touch on. I can't wait to see the official release and statement of that, as well as the official release of the last date and everything that you locked in. But coming back to how we'll end the show, Steve, you've always been somebody with big vision, and like you said, you love networking. Everybody, and you are the guy that can get things done. What is your vision and your goals for the Bassmaster Kayak Series now? Like, we know, working together with the other trail series and all that, but for Bassmaster, do you want to see it on us getting more coverage on like TV, or I really hope you're like number one's better awards at the Classic. I need some. They need to let you do that. I need enthusiasm. I need some dudes freaking out. But
you don't need somebody ever going to throw up because they're nervous, though.
Hopefully you're
But what's your plans, goals, visions? What is it? Anything you can or want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't care. I'll give you, my short version, hopefully, but with the juice. Number one is to make sure that, everything we run is done as perfectly as we can get it. Done with integrity, treat everyone the exact same. Communicate so that you don't have a question that's going to cost you, because that's my biggest fear is, one of my biggest fears is not having prepared you, with the information you need to be successful. That's why I do literally get pretty pissed off. People are like, "Why do I get to read the rule?" Well, guess what, man? I mean, did you look at the octane sticker when you filled your car up, or did you grab diesel? I mean, this is important. This is important here. This is your lifeline. So to make sure that all of that stuff is as easily accessible as possible. That way, there's no confusion on the facts, times, anything like that. And then from there, the inner workings of an event, I want the registration to be as smooth as possible. This year, you literally join a Bassmaster event after you have your Bassmaster ID number, just like you do every other Tourney X event. You go straight to the page, sign up for my tournament, and you're done. There's no hopping back and forth between websites. So, great. And so that's going to take out a lot. I literally know there's, one tournament I know of 24 people that probably didn't go because they couldn't get signed up. So, and that's the nature of websites. Websites take time for maintenance, and then
technology
you don't
sucks.
Get back around to it. Yeah, it can, absolutely. So, but make sure the registration process is as smooth as possible. It's out there everywhere you look. I want you to be able to see that there's an event coming, and then within the event, our crew. I feel like we've got a good setup with my judges, assistants, people that help me, and keep all of that going cleanly. Make the registration as smooth, efficient, and fast as possible, and then have some fun, and then everyone fish and fish clean and within the rules because they have them all and they know them because we've condensed them and kept them small like we try to do in cast.
Yeah.
And then from there, have the awards. We need the people to be there. We can't have 220 people at a tournament and only the check cashers show up because the chambers, they like seeing that stuff and it means something to them.
It's important to them.
And so, and whenever you get shared on Bassmaster, which is another priority, we understand the pecking order as far as, the budget and where dollars go and where the viewership is. So, I mean, that's not a slide against us. The viewership is on what's over Jimmy's shoulder there, So, they respect that and everywhere that we can get plugged in, we're going to do that. There's a lot of things, and I'll share those going forward that I'm learning, how expensive it is to stream what's going on right there. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And that budget to pay for that is literally coming out of the pocket of certain number of sponsors. And those sponsors, so if we want that too, that sponsor doesn't just cut us a piece of that. It's literally new contracts and new money that has to come out. So that's why supporting your sponsors like Dakota Lithium and people like that, supporting them helps them invest money into these tournament series for these type of fight. This is all brand new stuff that the kayak world is going to learn. And I want to do everything I can to share it because, it's important because we're going to have to deal with that stuff ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. We don't have sponsors knocking down the door to pay any tournament series money. We all have to hustle it up. We do. And so I want to make sure that sponsor outreach is there. I want to make sure that it's accessible for all of you to see who's investing in us and in a way to give back to them. The publication, they already do a really good job of us on the website and in print. I want the print on the Bass Nation side to pick up some. So as I learn these people, I'm going to work on that because, like our state championships and stuff, those are good fields of people. They deserve to be highlighted too. And then after that, hopefully I put together my best job and they see it and they let us add a few events. And when we do that, we'll restructure AOI stuff. We'll restructure championship qualification.
Awesome.
We've discussed, the classic is the classic. The classic deserves to be what it is. I don't feel like the classic should be associated with any other tournament than that. I feel like if we can separate our championship from the classic, then we get to celebrate our championship as a standalone. And then that in turn gets shared on Bassmaster Live, hopefully, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a long way away, but that's what I want to work towards, is making it where everyone understands the commitment we've made to them and that we're doing what it takes to put you all out there because you deserve it. And without, every tournament, I say it over and over and over. It's probably, again, I don't like cliches, but this one sticks. A tournament's only as good as the anglers that are in it. If you got a bunch of jacklegs that screw around and this, that, and the other, then you're going to have problems and the tournament's going to suck. People aren't going to be happy with it because they're going to be distracted. Because trust me, anglers don't like being distracted by clown asses and people that are just carrying on about stuff. They're there to listen and get out of there so they can get to fishing.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to work on all that with registration and stuff. So, but hopefully, we can grow it, add a few events. I don't think we need to go crazy with 7 tournaments in 5 regions or whatever because we're just spreading out. We get very, very excited about what we do, and we want to make it this mega everything. That's not always the best case. We got to perfect what we do first, and then the other can come. So
exactly, you gotta, you don't want to overstep, overreach.
Yeah,
I feel like AJ. I got to talk with him. One day at a show last year and talking about like how Hobie has evolved from the opens all the way up and to fill in tournament registration, and I asked him and was like, now what? And he was like, I have no idea. Like, I didn't know it was going to get here like it did. Yeah. And I feel like that's a good example of he didn't set his own bar so high that it caused an issue. Like he set his bars relatively low and he hit them and it's like, okay, that's when you start, like you said, that's when division play can start to be a real factor. It's like I'm literally maxing out my potential here. Now I have, it forces expansion. But I think that everything we've talked about tonight, this has been a great show. I appreciate you coming on and talking about it for sure. I, I know a lot of folks had a bad taste in their mouth with a lot of Bassmaster stuff, but I know a lot of folks have quickly shut up since you've taken over, because now we have someone that we all trust that's going to help move this in a better direction. And I mean, we've got a schedule. We know there's a big rule update coming. We've talked about a lot of things here. We know there's going to be some similarities, and it's all moving forward. Like, there's not going to be any more half-ass ran tournaments. There's not going to be any more speculations of cheating. I mean, sure, yeah, there will be for the stuff that we've encountered thus far. Like, I feel like everything has like, for me sitting here, it's like I don't see what can go wrong. Sure, something will. It happens.
Right.
But I for one, am super excited about it, looking forward to it. And I appreciate you coming on and talking about it. And, we've kept you for a little while, but if there's anything else you want to touch on about it before we let you go, or to sum it up.
Yeah, man. I'm glad Garrett is on here with you. I mean, I know you've had Riser and you and while come into cast. We talked a lot when he was starting their club and everything, and always enjoy talking with you about the Alabama stuff, Jimmy. And we will circle back around to what we've been texting about. But man, I want to thank everybody for having so much faith and hope in what I can do. And what you said, there's a sour taste there, but and the thing, it's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be hard because we're having to wash that taste out of people's mouth for them, but that takes time. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily know. I mean, they see my face, they know me, they know I can talk, whatever, but they don't know me. Some of the West Coast, the Northeast people, I have a reputation, but they don't know me. So, they don't have to trust me, and I don't want you to trust me until you come and see, let me earn it. But I say it, quite often. I'm probably uh, I don't know why I get like this. I'm probably the luckiest kayak person in the country. I've been able to work with everybody. I mean, from no matter what part of the country they're in, I was able to work, with Nick Brown, and I mentioned Craig Dye and Hoover and AJ, and I know Steve Fields pretty well, and I've got to bend his ear. I get to work with all the of our Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, and Queen City people. I work with all those tournament directors, and that's how I know the stuff that I do know is from everybody. I'm a chameleon. I fit in places I shouldn't be my whole life, and I've been able to absorb, what they were willing to share to me. And the anglers, I get to talk to so many people, and my wife gets on me all the time. Like literally today, I probably had 70 different people I messaged, text, called, or emailed with today. And I mean, I like talking to everybody, and by benefit, I get their knowledge and their trust, and so you can't be a repeat if you want that kind of stuff. You gotta keep your mouth shut. So you get excited, and that's hard to do, but I do. Again, I thank you all for always y'all's kind words and support you give me. Y'all know my phone's always there. I have started putting it on silent at night at a certain time so I can go to sleep or whatever. But yeah, and that's not, again, always reach out. So that'll tell you there. My phone's on silent. Don't worry about ever reaching out to me because I'll get to it the next day. So you're not bothering me. So that's one of the biggest fears of an event is I want to make sure, that's why I hype so much. That's what I hype everything we do at TBKA and everything because I want every person that can fish to come and fish that weekend. And so hopefully I can figure out a way to do it with Bassmaster and they'll like it and I can have a job there for a long time. So thank y'all for getting me on here, and I'll come back again whenever you need it.
I gotta say, I think that Bassmaster made a really good selection when they picked you as their director. I mean, you really embody kind of the kayak fishing spirit, and you have enough experience that you know how to handle every situation. And I think you're really good. They're in really good hands moving forward.
Appreciate that, Gary.
Can't say it any better. Well, man, I'll let you get to it. I'll let you go hang out with the wife and enjoy the rest of your evening. I appreciate you taking all my messages today, bothering you about getting you on. But so happy that you did, and I'm sure we'll have you on again as the season rolls around. Anything that you want out there to the public in the podcasting world, you can reach out to us here first. Paddle and Fin would be glad to share it out for you.
All right, man. Y'all have a good evening too. I'll catch up with y'all in a little bit.
All right,
Yeah,
brother.
we'll see you on Gunnersville.
See you.
See you. Thanks.
All right. A lot of great stuff there. We got some really good
Yeah.
fishing juice. I got to go rethink my line game, rethink my A-rig game,
Go get you a
which I
couple spools
appreciate.
of that Yozuri copolymer.
Yeah, you should be ashamed. That's your sponsor. You should have been shouting that out. I'm over here talking about $50 line, and you're. No, I'm just playing.
all about their fluorocarbon. I'm a fluorocarbon guy.
I've tried some copolymers, and I've not been a fan. But I think it's
Yeah.
just because I use high end. I mean, I don't use the highest end, but I mean, I use Sunline FC Sniper. It's not cheap, and
Yeah, that's not cheap
I
stuff.
I love it. It's just been hard to put it down, but it's also hard to pay for. So
Yeah.
we shall make some
Some of
changes.
that T7 fluorocarbon, it's really good stuff and not as nearly as hard on the budget.
I'll have to check it out. Well, Tourney X has been having a few issues this week. I can't get the archive tournaments to pull up, so I wasn't able to get the normal weekly tournament recap stuff. So hopefully that gets figured out, whatever that is, and I can get back to it next week. So
Come on, man, you let me down here.
Hey, sorry.
Blame it on
I'm
the new
not.
guy. Let's just do that.
Yeah, it's Garrett's fault. I gave that job to him, which is not true. My wife does it. She hit me up freaking out. Was like, I can't get Tourney X to work, and then I couldn't get it to work on my phone, on the computer. It didn't matter. So it's
It
probably just a little
happens.
bug. Like we said, technology sucks. But anything else, Garrett?
No, that was a good show, man. I'm really excited for what the future Bassmaster has in store
Yep.
for him.
I said it from the beginning.
The
Nothing
kayak
against
series.
Hobie, but
Yeah.
I will always the Bassmaster logo. I remember watching it on the weekends as a kid. Like it means something, like it does to most folks. Like being
Yeah.
on the stage, that kind of thing. I with Steve-O running it, I mean, I'll follow it till it train wrecks the bottom of a cliff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's
I'm
not gonna
excited
do.
for it. It's
Not with him running
absolutely
it.
not. It will
Yeah.
not. For anybody, all our West Coast listeners, if Canada guys, we got a big Canadian following. Like, you can trust that guy. You can trust that tournament. I mean, obviously, there's overhead there above him, but he's a very persuasive person and everybody likes him. So we
Yeah.
got that working for us, you know. But yeah, everybody that listens to this, make sure you share this one up. Let's get that word out there for Bassmaster. Like you said, we got to wash the bad taste out of their mouth, and obviously that can't happen until these events start happening. But a bunch of positive word, and the word coming from the source that's making all this happen is great. So,
Yeah.
like you said, though, it's a great show. Next week, I'll go ahead and give a little bit of a teaser. Hopefully, it doesn't change, but we should have the head of the Hobie BOS series next week, and he's going to give us his side of everything on their
Back-to-back
end.
TDs.
Yeah. So you're hearing it here on the Paddle and Fin Network on the Reel Down. Actually, since Steve's gone, I'm just going to give you all that juicy overlay real quick one more time with that new badass logo down there in the bottom right. Still thinking about getting some stickers and t-shirts made.
Yeah, do it.
But we appreciate it, folks. We'll be here same time next week. You'll catch us next Thursday with another great show, hopefully with another great tournament director. And then I think the week after that, the KBF series of trails kicks off. We'll have the first KBF event down there in Polk County, as well as the KBF 10, which is always exciting, which I think that's probably one of the top tier tournaments in kayak fishing, just because
How
it's 10
exclusive it
really good
is.
guys. They all
Yeah.
get paid no matter what happens. And the killer house, the killer prize pack, there's always really good footage from it. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite anglers are down there. So also nope, I can't say that hadn't dropped yet. So never mind. I'll leave y'all on that cliffhanger. Sorry. There's going to be a show posting that talks
Tune in
about,
next time.
yeah, there's going to be a show that gets posted within the next week or two that's going to go in depth of Polk County. So be looking for that.
Awesome.
But thanks again, everybody. We will see you next week, and we are out. Peace.
See ya.